Martha, you look like a Marcy May. If you're going to live here, you need to be a part of things. Let us in.
Well, she's just a picture.
You know that death is the most beautiful part of life, right?
Lives on my wall.
Death is beautiful because we all fear death.
Well, she's just a picture.
And fear is the most amazing emotion of all because it makes you truly present.
Smile so inviting in a body.
And when you're truly present, that's nirvana.
Well, she's
It's pure love.
She's just a picture.
So death
Just a picture.
is pure love.
That's all.
I am from beyond. Listen, and all you desire will be yours. Welcome to Spider-Dan and the Secret Doors. Prepare for Prattle. Shockphobia Fest.
Welcome to Prattle World. I am your host, the ever-amazing, ever-spectacular Spider-Dan, and in this podcast, I spotlight entertainment's best-kept secrets that a mainstream audience may find boring. And welcome to Shockphobia Fest, a month-long celebration of All Hallows Eve's most frightening films and comic spooks. And we are back this year with another top 5, quite similar to our top 5 witch movies, which is why I decided to do it a year later. Give it a bit of breathing room, because there are quite some similarities to the two topics. But we are doing top 5 cultist movies, not cult movies, because that's a whole different list. But I have brought a cult of personality, if you will, to talk about this subject, which she's fascinated by. And I can't wait to discuss. And she runs her own cult, you could say, a collective, if you will. It's all shared. There's no one particular leader, but she did start it. So she is technically the leader, much like Paul McCartney of the Beatles. No, just kidding. Ria Carrogan is here to talk all things cults. Hello.
I think I would be a good cult leader, as in I would just be good. You know, like cult leaders tend to do terrible things.
Not successful,
and so my cult would be
just good.
Yeah, so my cult would be useless.
You'd have a cult of maybe 2 people.
Yeah, and we just sort of wouldn't really get anything done. Like we'd be like a bit depressed,
much like a
but
podcast.
Happy, yeah. Be like a bit depressed and a bit happy at the same time, and we'd have loads of creative ideas, but then actually doing them would prove slightly difficult, and we would drink a lot of wine.
Hey, I'm signed up. I'm ready. Let's go. I'm drinking the Kool-Aid. I'm drinking it. I'm drinking the wine. I am on board. I can't organize to save my life, and I like alcohol. So already you've sold me on this entirely.
I throw great parties and events, so at least we would have like wonderful times dancing around the fire. Like,
absolutely. I like dancing. Yeah. Again, keep. This is it. You're indoctrinating me, brainwashing me into this.
It didn't take much, Dan.
No, I'm very susceptible to it. I'm a bit of a sheep.
Right. So I'm just going to go straight into it. So as you know, both you and I are interested in talking about cults and watch things around cults. So earlier today, and I didn't do any actual research on it because I didn't have the time, and I've lost all my notes, just dear listener. So just good luck to this. Like I have absolutely no notes after having copious notes, which I was going to ignore, but at least could refer to. I now have 0. And I was thinking, what, in your opinion, do you think attracts people to cults? Well, no, sorry, not cults, films about cults or documentaries about cults.
I think what I've noticed about my research is that it's a very kind of Western, conservative white people fear, isn't it? That another religion will come along and snatch you up and make you do things and make you think differently. I've often felt kind of disenfranchised, or maybe on the outskirts of the norm. So I find it quite interesting, but I also quite like the kind of how they get there. It's not quite, I just believe in this one guy because he said this one thing. I went to one seminar and now I'm in. And again, there's a lot of kind of regular things you could say are a bit cultish. I used to work for John Lewis, and that was a little bit cultish, I'll be honest. When I worked there was because you're a partner, you're not a colleague, you're not a staff member, you're a partner. You get a chunk, you get a bonus at the end of the year when you do well, but it has not been doing well recently, so that's why that money slowly kind of whittled out. But people would defend it doggedly. Any decisions made by the business, I was like, dude, it's a fucking conglomerate corporation, and I've just done a podcast all about corrupt corporation, corporate execs and stuff. So yeah, it's interesting to see that kind of slide and that needing to belong. I think it's that needing to feel like you're part of something greater, you're moving towards, you have a goal, and being doing something that's bigger and larger than yourself, but also kind of filling that gaping hole in your soul.
There we go. There's a great podcast called Sounds Like a Cult, and they do, and it's it'll be like the cult of Stanley Cups, the cult of PTA mums and stuff like that, and the cult of cheerleaders and army wives and things like that. And it's great because they go through and they're, like sort of talk about the sort of origin of this thing. So it'll be like the cult of Disney adults and things like that. And it's so interesting. You see how they put it together, because we always view cults as, I think as individuals, as something like nefarious, that how do people fall for cults? Like I never would. And actually it's kind of like we all become a cultist of something. If you think about, people who will defend Marvel movies to the end of the earth. Exactly. Yeah. That is a cult. And so I think there is this need as people, as a society, to be part of something, right? And so then when we as individuals watch cult films or documentaries or TV shows or whatever, you feel, I can't think of the right words, and I genuinely have no notes on this. You feel almost, what's the word, sort of like better than the people that fall for the cults, or you can judge them. Yeah, and it's like actually
kind of like gatekeeping a little.
Yeah. And and it's actually like anybody could be part of a cult, and you probably are. You just don't realize that it's just because it's not one like Jesus-like figure. You're part of, I'm about to say collective, but I really shouldn't do that because I am the producer of the Femon Collective.
I was literally joking. The Femon Collective is not a cult. It's a
and if we were, we would be the best one.
Exactly. But no, you're a wonderful group of people doing very positive things.
He has drunk the wine. Everyone,
I have 100%. 100%. I'm on board. But no, I 100%. Some great messaging in there, talking about some lovely things, and very, very positive. And again, they don't want anything. They don't even want money like I do for Patreon.
No,
they don't even want it.
We do want merchandise.
Oh yeah, that'd be good.
But we'd pay for that ourselves, so that doesn't work, doesn't it? Do you think you could end up in a cult?
I think maybe it's. I think like if I consider, like I work in sales, and we have to deal with people who are vulnerable, and the description of a vulnerable person could be you or me. In fact, we could be considered vulnerable or at risk of maybe radicalization, potentially. So I think anybody, if you catch them at the right time, if a Jehovah's Witness grabs you at the right time, you become one. Maybe if you're looking for something, if you need something like reassurance, whatever that may be, I think anyone is potential. I know it sounds, I'm going to talk about some more weird and wacky ones, and you're going to talk about some more kind of serious ones and
yeah, I have gone really serious.
Very dark, very disturbing, very real. But again, all very good choices, I think. And unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to watch all of them because I have not been very organized myself. But yeah, I think the anybody at any point could fall victim and could be vulnerable to something like that, and to be manipulated, in relationships or in friendships, or and it could be as simple, like you said, it could be anything really. There's a cult of the trad wives movement or something. There's that at the moment, and various other different things. Or it could be a football team, or whatever you want to use to be kind of indoctrinated, or whatever word you want to use. I think anybody at any time could be vulnerable to something like that.
Yeah, completely agree. We aren't here for a chat, are we?
No. Well, I mean, we are.
Sorry.
We are. No. But I'm glad we're talking about this, because it's a nice introduction into this. So,
do you watch a lot of cult stuff? Like, as soon as I see there's a new cult documentary, I'm like, Netflix, Disney Plus, and my poor other half is like, I don't want to watch this.
I should definitely watch more kind of cultist stuff and documentaries. I do kind of, there's certain ones I do watch and certain ones gravitate towards, and but yeah, I do definitely. There's like one on Jonestown I really want to watch, and there's a few others I really want to we may revisit this topic at another time, you never know, at this stage on this podcast. But yeah, I think there are some that I kind of go, oh, that's interesting, or oh yeah, I like that, or the folk horror stuff, or the satanic stuff. I've covered that kind of stuff before. It always kind of, there's something about it. There's something that interests me about it. So I always kind of am gravitated towards it. But I think it tends to be a fictionalized version more so. But like there's the Heaven's Gate cult as well, and that whole thing. But I find it an interesting topic, however it's handled, or however it's depicted, as weird and wacky as some of the ones I'm going to mention, and as realistic as some of the ones you mentioned. I think there is something kind of intriguing and interesting, just in general, about the topic itself. Right. Well, on that bombshell, let's get started, because I know we're probably going to run over, knowing us. So let's get cracking. So. It's a top 5. Have you got a list in quality, or just 5?
I've just got 5.
I've just got 5. Me too.
Good.
Mine do not. There's not there's not a overarching or descending order. However you want to do it. I would like you to go first. I know you have no notes.
Exciting.
I'll let you pick whichever one you want to go with.
Yeah, I mean, this might be really short with me not having any notes. So
I doubt it. I sincerely doubt it.
Look,
I never read them anyway.
Getting tired. Come on. So my first one is hugely obvious. Anybody who's heard me talk about anything to do with horror films or even cults and stuff like that will know that I'm a huge Ari Aster fan, and I had to make some difficult decisions about which Ari Aster film to choose. And that's an absolute lie. I knew what one it would be out of cults, even though I think Hereditary's scarier. I have, of course, gone for the very obvious Midsommar. So it came out in 2019. It's about a young woman called Dani. We are doing spoilers, right?
Here's your Tonya Todd spoiler warning.
I am gonna spoil Midsommar. And she is grieving her sister, who has some sort of mental illness, has killed herself and Dani's parents. She is she's got a boyfriend, Christian, who is a person.
So diplomatic of you.
Look, there are some people out there, and I don't think they're wrong, who try to see it from Christian's side. And I think he is a very flawed human being, and I'm sure he has some good qualities, and that's why Dani liked him in the first place. But he does not come over well in this film. And even though really terrible things happen to him, he is raped and sexually assaulted like multiple times, and he is sewn into a bear suit and burnt alive. I'm still kind of like, so Christian wants to break up with Dani, but he can't because her sister kills everyone. Brilliant. So he is going on a midsummer retreat to a Swedish festival with his friend Pelle, and Danny is invited along, and when they get there, they are either killed off or slowly indoctrinated into this Swedish cult. And lots of weird things happen. Old people jump off cliffs and get their heads smashed. To be fair, poor Christian ends up eating pubic hair and drinking.
We've all been there. We've all been there.
Drinking bodily fluids.
Sounds like an average Saturday night, doesn't it?
But what I love about this film is I love that, especially on rewatches, you see that Danny was always the target. Danny was always Pele's target. And I think that's so clever, because I think the first time you watch it, you are so taken in by how oppressive it is, which is strange because and there's another film I'm going to talk about this, because it's so open. So all the shots are so open. They are outside. They live in big barns. They're outside a lot. They're walking, they're dancing around maypoles. Most of it happens outside. Yet this big open sky, this no night, this constant sunlight feels so oppressive. And that comes from the way it's shot. It's absolutely beautiful the way Ari Aster directs it. It comes from the music. It comes from the close-up we get on characters' faces. And I think for me, it encapsulates when you get into into a community and you feel lost and you feel broken and they embrace you, how that can either feel good oppressive or bad oppressive. And for Danny, it feels good, and it allows her to use her grief in a really destructive way. What she does to Christian is not a good thing, but she is unable to process any of her grief and any of her feelings in a healthy way, and they take advantage of that. And so I just think it's really clever. It's a great film in general, but I think what it's saying about vulnerable people and how they can be indoctrinated is very, very clever.
Yeah, I agree. I went to see it in the cinema, and I came out of it, and I was I half loved it and I half kind of hated it. And I did rewatch it. It was one of the films I did manage to rewatch that you mentioned you were going to cover, and it is better on the rewatch. I think it is absolutely, because it is long. It is very contemplative, I think is the best word, but it's a slow burn. And if you're looking for like out and out horror, I don't think this is the film. It's that kind of subtle creeping dread and feeling. I think this is the closest thing you get to a modern Wicker Man.
Absolutely.
And I do think it's excellent. I think Florence Pugh has a making turn in it. I think she's superb, and you get a lot of kind of sad frown acting from her, which she's amazing at. And that's not to belittle any of her performances. I think she's incredible. That opening 10-15 minutes is heartbreaking, and
her scream, her breakdown lives with you forever. Lives with you forever. She's so wonderful, and she's she does so much in this film with her face, with her eyes, without doing anything else. And Ari Aster captures that so beautifully. Like, he just knows how to shoot her and how to capture her talent, and it's wonderful. Sorry, I interrupted you.
No, I agree. I think her crying is some of the realest kind of crying, like proper like sobbing, bawling. Like, that is probably the realest crying I think I've ever heard on film or captured on film. Like, and that moment where they're communally doing it as well. Like, and they do it throughout the film. They're communally in pain or communally kind of laughing and enjoying, which again is quite it's quite lovely in a way that people can feel that together and experience that together and share the grief or the pain or the misery. But also it's very disturbing at the same time, which is exactly what they're trying to capture. They're trying to say, this is lovely. And again, it's all shot. There's no like very, very little is at night, if at all, I think. I can't remember any kind of night scenes.
I think only when they're not in Sweden, there's night scenes.
Yeah, you're right. You're correct, because they talk about that, like the midnight sun, something like that. But yeah, I think it's really excellent. The characters are like very dickish, because it is a bunch of blokes. It is very like kind of toxic, especially Christian for a lot of reasons. Like not even just in his relationship with Danny, but his relationship with the rest of his friends.
Yeah.
And his friends are toxic in their own right as well. But yeah, I think it's a phenomenal film. It's got some very odd stuff, like the kid that is purposely inbred to show visions. And again, it's so welcoming and lovely, and like very seemingly quite wonderful and seemingly progressive, yet this unique kind of area. But yeah, I think it's an excellent choice. I love I mentioned I noticed this time where they're playing with perspectives, and you're kind of wondering if it's some kind of magic or if it's just the drugs they've been given, and you see the blurriness in the background or on people's faces, on the flowers. There's so much kind of to talk about with this film, and so many kind of wonderful little details about it. I kind of love the shit kind of bodies as well. There's like the shit kind of practical effects. And again, they're not shit. They are shit. Like they don't look like the people and stuff. But I kind of like that. It kind of harkens back to kind of old school kind of filmmaking, and those kind of dummies and the practical effects where the people fall off the cliff and the heads come apart and the legs come apart. It's I love it. I just I think it's I can't just get out how much I loved it on the second viewing, and how much I appreciated it so much more. Not that I didn't appreciate it the first time, but I was kind of on the fence a little bit. The friend I went with kind of hated it, wasn't into it, and I was kind of like, I don't know. I'm kind of still on the fence about it. I did want to watch the director's cut, but I couldn't find like a digital copy, so I'll have to hunt that out and maybe see. I don't know if you've seen the director's cut at all.
I haven't, no.
No, there's like an extra 20 minutes or so, I think. But I would like to see what that adds or takes away from it, and decide which one I like better. But that is a good showing, because it means I'm willing to sit through a 3-hour film.
I know, because it's so long, but to me, Midsommar does not feel like. So hands up, Midsommar's one of my all-time favorite films, just in general. I love it. I can watch it over and over again. I mean, which clearly shows that I'm mentally unwell. And I clearly love to feel very tense and uncomfortable. But one of the reasons why is, well, there's two things. One, it reminds me of The Shining and how deliberate Stanley Kubrick was in making the viewer feel uncomfortable. And I think Ari Aster does that beautifully. He does it through his direction, and the writing. So every time you watch it, you find something new. So this time when I watched it, I didn't notice that when this was the first time I noticed that when they get to the commune, they say welcome to everyone, but they say welcome home to Danny. So, it was the first time I noticed that. And so each time I watch it, I just find something else. And rather than taking away from the power of the film and making me feel less uncomfortable, it makes me feel more uncomfortable. And so I'm just like, that just makes me just like want to watch it more and more. I clearly have mental issues. And then the other thing, that other film I could compare it to, is it's like a twisted Studio Ghibli film, right? It's a dark Studio Ghibli film. There are shots from this that could be in something like Kiki's Delivery Service or Totoro, or or anything like that. One of the more sort of like less sort of like spiritual ones, more sort of like the sort of everyday ones. But rather than being lovely and pleasant and relaxing, because I love Studio Ghibli, and I'm like, oh God, yes, I love it. It makes me feel so good. It makes me feel so happy, apart from Grave of the Fireflies, because that's hideous. As in, it's an amazing film, but I don't need to sob for like 90 minutes. And Ari Aster makes scary Studio Ghibli with Midsommar. And I'm like, genius. Absolute genius. How is your grass sinister? I watch it in Studio Ghibli and I'm like, I'd love to lie in that grass. I watch it in Midsommar and I'm like, fucking hell, grass, get away from me.
Yeah, or like when she sat on the throne and it reacts to her, kind of holding it and touching it. She's the May Queen, I loved it. Like, I couldn't agree with you more. I think it is the closest you get to kind of like great modern folk horror. On like a kind of a grand stage. It's kind of magnum opus. Just superb on every level. I couldn't agree with you more. I think it's an excellent choice. But we do have to move on, Ria. Is there anything else you want to say about Midsommar?
No. I mean, yes, but no.
I'm sure. I'm sure there's a whole podcast you could do on the whole thing, and you still wouldn't cover everything, every little delicious moment, every morsel. But yeah, so I'm gonna get on to my top 5. So I'm gonna go with a 1975 film called God Told Me To, which is from Larry Cohen, who is known for being very political, a lot of satirical elements in a lot of his films. He did The Stuff, and he did all sorts of other stuff. It's Alive with the mutant baby, killer baby, great stuff.
God, I forgot about It's Alive.
Yeah, that's him as well. He did 3 of those. In fact, he did all 3 of them. He also wrote the Maniac Cop films, which I've covered before.
Yeah. I thought there was only one. Oh, interesting.
No, there's 3. There's a whole
Sorry
three.
to interrupt you.
He's not got much luck with sequels, I will say. But yes, God Told Me To. So it starts off, and there's kind of this sniper who's taking people out in New York City, and this policeman, this Italian American policeman, tries to confront him and stop him. And he's like, "Why are you doing this? I want to understand. Tell me about it." And he's like, "I'm doing it because God told me to." And then, they find out that nothing, he's not one of these people that is like this. He's not been mentally ill. There's no record of that. He's not a criminal. He's just a regular guy. And he learns that there's a mysterious character, an individual, who is influencing people to do murder or murder-suicides. And they're all saying, when he asks them about it, when he interviews them, interrogates them, they all say, God told me to. And it's revealed that there is somebody out there influencing them and forcing them to act on this person's behalf. Now, through investigation, he learns that this person is an intersex person. They were born on Christmas Day, and they have some otherworldly, potentially, powers and origins, this particular person. And as we go along, we find out that there is a kind of high-level corporate group of kind of cultists who he's communicating with, and he's showing off his psychic powers. Sorry, I shouldn't say his. Their psychic powers by doing these killings and suicides. And as we go along, we learn that this police detective, who's highly religious, has a difficult relationship with his wife, may have the same abilities and may be linked to this person, and may have even caused the death of his unborn children through unconscious means, these psychic powers that they may have. So, yes, I don't want to spoil any more, but I will say the finale does have a prosthetic vagina. That's the finale. That happens in the finale of the film, but it's very mysterious. But I think to give it away, I do kind of feel like if I did spoil it, people would watch it.
Yeah.
But I kind of don't want to give the ending away too much. But yeah, Larry Cohen was he was inspired by the Bible and how kind of violent, basically, and bloodthirsty God is in the Bible, in the very Old Testament style of God. And basically it was about kind of a lot of people coming out and going, God told me to do this. This is the reason I did this, and then there's that famous kind of killer from the clock tower, the sniper, who took out all that. I think it was in Texas, I believe. So that it's playing on that. It's playing on the cult leaders like Jim Jones and, Charles Manson. There's a lot of those ideas he's playing with. And it's in the Rolling Stones top scariest films you've never seen, and on Time Out's top horror films, top 100 list of horror films. In fact, it made that list as well. And Gaspar Noé even asked to remake it as well, but he didn't. Larry Cohen didn't give him the chance. But it's a very interesting film. Again, Larry Cohen's very guerrilla style filmmaking. Doesn't get a lot of permits. You've got Andy Kaufman, weirdly, in a role where they're doing the St. Patrick's Day parade or the police are walk, and he plays one of the policemen. And again, he's taken out, and it's God told me to. So yeah, very odd, interesting film. It is available on YouTube if you want to watch it. I don't know if that's an indicator of quality. That is up to you to decide. But I quite like Larry Cohen. He's the king of cults. There was a documentary about Larry Cohen which I really enjoyed, and I do recommend it. I think there's a lot of fun elements, but there's a lot of serious elements to it as well. All sorts going on. There's a lot to discuss, a lot of levels going on, as you can tell by even just a little bit that I've mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, I've not seen it, But, obviously I'm immediately picking up on God told me to. Well, how many people actually say that? There are a lot of people who take the Bible and God's word as being instructed by God, and they do what some of us might consider terrible things. And, but they believe they're on the side of good. I think it sounds like there's something there about like corporate greed and, and all of that sort of stuff. So lots of different layers for something that's probably, just deemed as a bit of a random horror film by the sounds of it.
It didn't do very well, and I imagine it's because America is quite religious. They released it over here.
Is it?
Yeah, a little bit. I'll get into that as well a little bit later with one of my other choices. It was released in the UK as Demon. I will say this character in particular is not a demon, but I can see why they maybe remarketed the film as such to maybe hopefully get a bit more money in. But I like it. I really enjoy it. Again, I'm sure somebody nowadays would call it woke for having some ideas and political feelings. Oh no, it's political. And
God, they're not going to like some of my choices then.
Oh well. Let's crack on then. Let's crack on with your next choice and see what these people think of your choices.
Okay, so my next choice is what I personally believe is Paul Thomas Anderson's best film, which is The Master. Came out in 2012, starring Joaquin Phoenix and Philip Seymour Hoffman and Amy Adams in what is probably, apart from Amy Adams is amazing and everything, so I won't include her. But let's say it's probably Joaquin Phoenix and Philip Seymour Hoffman's best roles. Just, personal opinion. Before anybody comes at me.
They're going to come for you. Have you not seen Mission Impossible 3? Have you not seen Joker?
Don't get me started on Joker.
Yeah. Me too. I have a lot of things to say about that film and the culture behind it, and the new one's just about to come out.
I absolutely can't wait.
I'm on the fence whether I'm even going to see it. I'll be honest.
I'm not going to see it. Maybe like when it's streaming or whatever. Anyway, what was I talking about? The Master. It is about a young man called Freddie, who is a World War II veteran. And he gets put back into the real world and he's struggling and he's making his way through life by basically lying, stealing, being a bit weird, getting what he can out of life. He has a drug and alcohol problem, mostly alcohol, but he's making his own moonshine. So, and he stumbles across a cult that's led by Philip Seymour Hoffman, who I can't actually remember his first name. I'm just going to call him Dodd. And he's the leader of a cult known as The Cause. And he takes Freddie in and he starts doing all of these sessions with him. So asking him questions, teasing out this stuff from Freddie's life. And Freddie becomes part of Dodd's family. So he's got his wife, he's got a son and a daughter. His wife's pregnant, Amy Adams. She's just so good in this film.
She is.
She is terrifying. So, and that's one of the things I love about this film. So Freddie joins the cult, but he's still sort of an outsider. He's not fully integrated where everybody else believes. Freddie, he's just so broken, and other people quite rightly like sort of question the cult, and that either makes him react angrily and beat them up, or it makes him start questioning why he is in the cause. And he finally, towards the end, breaks away from Philip Seymour Hoffman's power. He's not doing particularly well, but Dodd rings him up and he goes to visit him. And we are left with an ambiguous ending where it's almost as if he's now indoctrinating people into the cult. And it's got sort of like, one of those endings where you're like, is he just so messed up from the cause, or is he part of the cause, which I think is really good. One of the things I absolutely love about this film is not the allusion to Scientology, but this film is a romance. It is a romance between Freddie and Dodd. It is about male friendships, male relationships. It is about how all of us are victims of the patriarchy. how many minutes has it taken me? 34 minutes. And how broken people can be, I mean, much like Midsommar, can be manipulated into thinking that they are part of something bigger. And the way that Freddie can't, there's so many constraints in Freddie's life, and he can't figure out where to be. And it is Dodd. He's the only one who fully accepts him, but also challenges him. So he's constantly challenging him. And Freddie gets angry when he doesn't know the answer to something, and Dodd challenges him. And so he's so explosive, and Dodd embraces that, and he allows him to be like that, even though everybody else sort of like dislikes him in the cause. And so we have this darkness of Freddie, and then we have this lightness of Dodd. Again, and that's, you know, the way Paul Thomas Anderson films it is exactly that. You know, so many times we have Dodd in light clothes. You know, he's got his white hair, he's got light behind him. And then we have Freddie, who's in darkness, who's doing things that, you know, are seen as outwardly as bad, but actually Dodd's doing things just as bad by manipulating a whole bunch of people with money, who's getting money from them. And so I absolutely love that contrast of these two men, and what is basically a love story. This is their love story. Then we get Amy Adams, absolutely fucking terrifying. There is this scene where
I think I know which one you're talking about.
so Dodd is being questioned. So somebody's come to one of these parties that Dodd's saying, he's been questioned, and it's afterwards. And she is so angry, and she's just stood there, and the shot is just her talking how angry she is that this man, how dare he question what the cause is about, what Dodd is talking about. And she is absolutely terrifying. And then at the end, towards the end, and she's, you know, like, he is not ready. He is not one of us. And you feel like Dodd is the light, is the charismatic, gets everybody in, gets people involved, does this weird regression stuff. And she is the real force behind it. And she is the one who is dangerous. And she is using him to draw people in to what is, you know, dangerous ideology. And I think it's so clever, because we're so focused on this relationship between these two men. And then we've just got this other figure in there who's so menacing and so scary. And she's in so many scenes just like there in the background looking at you. And it's just fantastic. Soundtrack, beautiful. It's so well shot. I think we don't get to see, I think often when we're watching films about cults, and they're often horror films, you know, we end up having Final Girl and things like that. I think we very rarely get to see a nuanced piece of media about cults that focuses on men and male fragility. And so I think that makes it incredibly unusual.
Yeah, I guess most cult films, they tend to be like, you know, think of the children or think of the women, because they're seemingly more vulnerable and more susceptible to being manipulated or something, you know, which is not the case. You know, it's just not. But then again, there's just as many kind of cult members that are male and are indoctrinated, like you said. I thought you were going to talk about the scene I found most terrifying, which is the violent hand job.
Oh my God, that scene is terrifying.
Like, that was the moment I was like, oh shit, she's in charge. Yeah, she runs shit.
Come for me. I was like, and like, you're just like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Like,
she's commanding him to do that. She's like, you will do this.
And I love that, like, everyone sees his son and they're like, oh yeah, you can tell they're related. But I'm like, are the other children she's having his? Thing is, I feel like she is 100% committed to him, so they would be his. But then seeing the way that they treat each other sexually, you also like, is it?
She can, yeah, because she doesn't like. I think that is when he's speaking to another woman and she's quite suggestive and being quite sexually forward with him, and that's when she doesn't like, and that's when she gets home. She's like, right, you're having a talking to, a very violent hand job, and and again, bit sexy, bit terrifying. Am I
Is
turned
it?
on?
Is it
Am I
sexy?
afraid? I don't know. I can't remember. I was like,
Yeah, you can.
how do I feel about this? I don't know. It's Amy Adams. Okay, it's also it could be. It's a bit rough, a bit violent, a bit intense. So yeah, conflicted feelings about that scene for me. Much like joining the cause, I'm sure. But no, I think you're right. I'll be honest. This is one of the ones I didn't manage to watch. Again, another long one, but I do remember really enjoying it. I thought it was very strong, very powerful. Philip Seymour Hoffman, like they're all great. They're all amazing in it. Again, I remember a lot of controversy, courting a lot of controversy because the director even says he's somewhat inspired or unconsciously inspired by L. Ron Hubbard, and again, it's a science fiction writer, makes his religion. Former Navyman, there are a lot of similarities. I remember he showed it to Tom Cruise, and Tom Cruise even had some strong issues with it, but he was like, "We're still releasing it, it's still being made, it's still coming out." But they kind of agreed to disagree, I think, is the most polite way to put it. But is Scientology a cult?
Yes.
Yes, I think.
Let's move on. What's your next tip, Dan?
We're getting cancelled. They're coming for us. They're coming for us now. They're coming for us. They're coming to complain. Like anybody, like any of them listen to this shit.
You say that, but there is one cult leader who I really want to talk about, but I don't talk about them online on anything because they are known, for them, like. They clearly Google themselves. They clearly have a Google alert set up for themselves, and so I don't mention them online.
To be fair, it could happen, but AI could also make me say all sorts of stuff.
That's true. It was the AI. The AI did it.
Yeah, it was AI generated that. I don't know what you're talking about. I never said that. Maybe I'll just cut that out of the podcast.
By the way, I'm not saying that I'm very important. I literally watched a documentary where that cult leader did that exact thing, and I was like, you know what? I don't think I'm going to say their name online.
Fair enough. And
got enough shit going on.
And that exactly right. Okay, now to lighten the mood again.
I'm so serious. All of mine are so serious.
Amy Adams is terrifying. All of this is terrifying. Yes. Luckily, when I saw your list, because you already had it from like a year ago.
Yeah.
Solidified.
I want to talk cult films. I'm going to depress everyone.
And we arranged to do it, and then I think we decided we were like, we'll leave it since Witches is quite similar and stuff. We'll leave it a year or so. But yeah, you had it. I think you made a few changes here and there, but again, it's mostly been the same list for the most part. So I knew what I was coming into. So I've actively gone the opposite way just to give us a little bit of shade, light and shade. So I've gone for 2017's The Babysitter, starring Samara Weaving, directed by McG of Charlie's Angels fames and other films, including my least favorite Terminator film. But this film knows exactly what it is, and you and me, Ria, we love those. We love films that know exactly what they are, and it is a love letter to 80s kind of cinema, slasher movies, kind of the satanic panic, all of that sort of stuff going on. And it has Samara Weaving's the lead character. She plays this very intense, funny, charming babysitter, and we've got this very, very nervous, very kind of nebbish young teenage boy who's afraid of basically everything, and he's the oldest, he's the only one in his age group that has a babysitter. He's still bullied at school, he doesn't have many friends, is afraid of needles, can't really do sports, can't learn how to drive because he's terrified of it, but he's got these loving, supportive parents as well. Speaking of angry hand jobs, there's one in this film as well, and we learn because his friend says she's probably having sex with guys, bringing them round, and he's like, no, she isn't. I love her. She's the best, and she wouldn't do that. It's crazy, and she's drugging you, and you're going to sleep. Turns out she is drugging him. She is bringing boys back, but she's doing it as part of a satanic cult, and they are draining the blood and hoping that Satan will fulfill all their dreams and wishes, and they've been doing it for a while. And they've not sacrificed this young boy because he's virgin and pure and innocent. They've been knocking him out, drugging him, and draining his blood because they need that for the sacrifice along with the blood of the young guys they're getting. And again, it flips the script on those slasher archetypes which we've talked about before. All of the you've got the cheerleader, you've got the kind of jock, you've got the you could say the token black guy. Unfortunately, they flip the script and they are the villains. And it is really hilarious. They're all dispatched in kind of funny ways. There's definitely a kind of an adult Home Alone vibe to it as well, which I love. It's set in modern day, even though it's kind of 80s inspired. The soundtrack is quite similar in a lot of ways. And yeah, I have a lot of fun with this film. It's great. It's charming. Samara Weaving can do no wrong for me. Everything I see her in, she's incredible. Can't falter at all. Even here, they know exactly what this is. There's a lot of pop culture references. And yeah, I just have it's an absolute blast. I've not seen the sequel. I doubt it's probably as good. But I will give it a try at some point. But yeah, I absolutely adore this film. And again, flips the kind of script on what a cult is, what a cult can be, and how a cult is represented, because it's this very diverse group of people. It's not just a bunch of old white blokes in robes. It is absolutely something entirely different and funny and charming and all of the great words. But yeah, I think this is an absolute ball and a delight. If you want to do a double bill with the Master and this, you watch this one after the Master, just for a little, just like a lovely little kind of aperitif, let's say. But yes, what do you see? You've definitely seen this.
Yeah. So when it first came out on Netflix, I mean, Samara Weaving's just so fantastic, and that's my favorite thing about this film, that she's so naturally charming that they bring her in and then flipping it as in she is the evil person, she is the bad person, she's basically the cult leader.
Yeah,
is really good, because you spend your whole time being like, but it's Samara Weaving, and she's so charming and funny, but also I don't want this 12-year-old boy to be killed.
Yeah, there is that. And that's it. And weirdly, like they're very they care about him a lot, and they're quite supportive. And like Robbie Amell's in it, and Bella Thorne's in it. So all the kind of young and beautiful people at the time are in this. And there's he wakes up when they've knocked him out, and he's like, why have you got your shirt off? Like, for what reason have you got your shirt off? And he's just like him posing. And like Bella Thorne gets like shot in the tits, and is like, oh, put a tampon in there, and I'm going to lose my tit. All this sort of stuff. Just great fun and silliness, but. Again, like you said, it is charming. Like, I would fall for Samara Weaving. I have fallen for Samara Weaving. I'm still falling for Samara Weaving. I would welcome being part of this cult. And again, like Robbie Amell, when he learns he's being bullied, the young lad, even though he's trying to actively kill him, he's like, no, go and stand up to your bully, punch him in the face. And then he doesn't, and he's like, you're such a chicken shit. And then actually causes his death by accident as well. Yeah, great fun, short, sweet, wonderful. Again, you get a little like post-credits stinger as well, which I didn't realize. Only on the second viewing, when I let the credits roll, did I realize there was that. But yeah, just a blast.
It's so much fun time. So much fun.
But yes, okay, back to the dark, decrepit, and disturbing. Here we go.
I'm so sorry, everyone. I'm having a blast.
You're having a great time, so it's fine. It's fine. Like nobody's forcing anybody to watch these in order, in this order or anything, or back to back or anything. But I appreciate these choices. I think they are good. Don't get me wrong. I really love them, and I know that you like the way these make you feel and how effective they are.
Yeah.
And, in a positive way. But let's crack on with yours.
So welcome back to Ria's cheery world. It's lots of fun here. Come be part of my cult. So my third choice is the 2015 film The Invitation. It is not the recent film called The Invitation on Netflix, which is about vampire
thing.
Yeah.
But doesn't it also have does it also have a like you don't like a this is I know why you like this, because you like the intense dinner parties, don't you?
Yeah. There's a lot of intense dinner parties in my choices.
Yeah. Does the I think it's 2022, I want to say, invitation, does that have an intense dinner party?
It does, yeah.
There you go. There you go. There's our Clone Wars comparison. We can get that one ready. Anyway, 2015's invitation.
2015. The whole film is a tense dinner party. We meet Will and his girlfriend Kira. They are driving through the Hollywood Hills to go to his old house where his ex-wife lives with her new partner. She has been gone for 2 years. Nobody's really heard from her, and they are hosting a dinner party for all of their friends to say that they're back. Will and his ex Eden had a child who has died, and that's why they split up, because they couldn't deal with the grief. Eden was suicidal, and Will has just not really dealt with it at all, and has not been back to the house since. They go, their friends are there. Will grows increasingly more suspicious at strange things that are happening. Eden being just a bit strange, and David being fantastically creepy. So that's her new boyfriend. David, and there's a girl called Sadie, lovely nod to Manson family, who Eden and David seem to have adopted and lives in their house, and there's clearly some sex happening between the three of them, and then some things start happening. We are doing spoilers. I'm trying to not do spoilers, but I don't want to spoil this film because I think it's got such a good sense.
Ria, I spoiled the angry hand job. Okay,
that's true. You did.
Yeah,
and
that was clearly the most memorable part of that film.
Halfway through the night, a guy called Pruitt arrives, who is somebody that Eden and David met when they were away at this retreat, and you start to find out that Eden and David are part of something called the Invitation. And as part of sort of trying to indoctrinate their friends into it, they show them a video of somebody dying. And in the end, people are concerned about the video. People are like, this is not cool watching somebody die. You shouldn't be doing that. And even David and Pruitt are very much but they're moving on to the next life, the next stage. Let's not be scared of death. And so it's just so creepy and creepy and creepy. And then they sit down for a final drink after all this suspense, and Will, no, don't drink the wine. It's poisoned. And everybody's like, Will, you're crazy. It's not poisoned. And then one of the guests dies because it is poisoned. And then Eden, David, and Pruitt and Sadie go around trying to kill everyone, because to be part of the invitation to ascend, you have to kill these people. And it ends with Will and Kira manage to escape. They escape the house. There's lots of sirens going on, and they look across the Hollywood Hills, and there's these red lanterns lit across the Hollywood Hills. And that is each of their houses of the people who have the invitation and are clearly murdering people across the Hollywood Hills. And that's the end of the film. So it's slow, it's dark, it's about grief, it's serious. It's not funny at all.
It's all fun, isn't it?
But it's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. And I mean, do you know what? I think it is kind of funny.
I would agree with. I was about to say, I do think there are some really funny moments.
There are some really funny bits in it, but also it's sending up that sort of LA cult culture, which is very, it's these rich, wealthy white people. There are a couple of people of color in their friendship group, but they are not the wealthy couple who gets to go off for 2 years and come back and throw the dinner party in your linen suit and your pristine white dress, And I think that's so clever, that sort of sending up of that sort of culture. And of course, these people think that they could join something like the Invitation and ascend to the next level. And I also think it just really taps into when we are in an uncomfortable situation. God, that's hard to say. We carry on with the pretense of being polite. So throughout, nearly every single character, apart from the crazy cult people, are uncomfortable, but they have conversations with each other going, it's just one dinner. We'll just get through this one dinner and then we'll go home and, God, and we never have to see them again. And it's when we're in these uncomfortable situations, we'll just be polite. We'll just carry on and then it'll be over and done with. And of course, that's exactly how you can get involved. You can get involved in this situation. So we see that they've been preyed upon, Eden and David have been preyed upon, and Sadie through grief, and even Pruitt, who tells the most horrific story of why he's grieving. He basically murders his wife. So we get that side of it, how a cult can glom on to that grief and indoctrinate you in that way, but also the politeness of everybody else. Like if we just hold it, oh, well, they've just shown us this video. This video is really disturbing, but, they've been through so much. And they even have that discussion in the film. One of them, there's a gay couple and one of them says, that's horrific, he's a doctor. And then the other one's like, well, actually, I think it's really beautiful. So you could see how that, he could then be drawn into the invitation, into the cult of the invitation. And in such a short amount of time, it's not a long film. It brings out all these threads of society and how we're so performative in society as well. And it's just it's just so clever. It's so beautiful. It's so well acted. It's just so well put together, and it's pretty terrifying.
Yeah, I saw this. I think I saw this on Netflix a few years ago. It was one of these I just kind of stuck on, and you just stick one on and give it a go. Again, I like the subject matter. I like the idea. Yeah, I loved it. I absolutely adored it. And I think it is kind of closer to those kind of more genre choices. I think this one is the most kind of that could kind of segue a little bit more, but it is taking it very serious, the loss and stuff. But I like the catty gay couple, and there's a moment where he's like, oh, this is all a bit fucking weird, this, and she like viciously like slaps him, which I found quite funny still.
The sound effect of that's amazing.
Yeah, it's just and you feel like you're there, like those moments you're like, fuck, this is really tense and weird.
Yeah,
and, you're like, and you go along with the paranoia. You see them, if I remember rightly, when he's doing it, the drinks, they're coming out of a decanter, but for the rest of the night they've been drinking out of wine bottles.
Yeah,
so that's where
exactly right.
He gets kind of paranoid about the whole thing. And yeah, those scenes where she's trying to kill herself and the protagonist is kind of trying to stop her, his former wife. But yeah, it's really intense, really kind of interesting, fascinating, dark and disturbing, kind of action-packed in a way once it gets going, once you kind of get past that. And
it massively switches and suddenly becomes an action horror film. Yeah, absolutely.
But it works, and all set in the kind of Californian hills. It's so bizarre and weird, and again, like the contrast of that as well. Absolutely wonderful choice. I couldn't agree more with this. It would have been on my list if you hadn't picked it.
I took it.
Yes, you took it. It's fine. No, I want people to talk about the ones they like, and that's why I go even weirder and wilder.
Come on, what have we got
mine? Okay, next up. So I'm going to go with a Hong Kong fantasy action film called The Seventh Curse. This is a wild ride, this one. So we have, it stars, so it's from the director of Ricky-O, The Story of Ricky. So it is wild and probably not quite as mad as that one, but we have that. We've got Maggie Chung in it, who I love, who I think is amazing, and Chow Yun-fat plays a small role. It's based on a series of short stories or novels or manga or something, and it's about this guy called Dr. Yun, who's kind of the film itself is like somewhere between Die Hard, The Evil Dead, and Temple of Doom. So this Dr. Young character stops a hostage negotiation, meets this reporter who's very much kind of a Willie Scott in this, very annoying, very chasing him around and stuff, lots of screaming. But Maggie Chung does it in the best possible way, lots of fun, lots of goofy humor, but like insane amounts of gore and martial arts kind of, action, so awesome, so good, so well kind of choreographed. And the main doctor is he comes home after this hostage thing that he's averted, finds a sexy woman in his shower, fights off some goons, gets rid of them, goes to have sex with the lady, and then forgets that a year ago, while in Thailand researching the worm tribe, as they are called, he and this is again one weird element on top of a million weird elements. He's searching for a cure for AIDS in Thailand. Don't ask me why, but that's the plot apparently. So while he's there, he meets a beautiful woman in a kind of in the most kind of wet t-shirty competition looking woman you've ever seen. And again, it's got this very goofy childlike humor, but has this very like it's massive amounts of gore and sexuality. But yeah, a year ago, so this is all told in a flashback. He contracted a blood curse, but it escaped this worm tribe who have a flying worm demon and a kung fu fighting skeleton that turns into a bigger kind of almost like reptilian beast, kind of batwing demon thing. It's very hard to describe. It's a lot of things. He gets this blood curse, and when he goes to have sex with a lady, every time he gets horny, he can only get horny for 7 times, and then he's gonna die. And it's kind of like his blood pressure, and it affects him so much that the blood kind of spurts out of his legs and his body, and eventually, once he gets up to the 7th one, the 7th time he's horny. Also, by the way, his curse happened a year ago, so apparently he's not been horny at any point for a whole year. So the 7th one, he's just going to explode in a big kind of massive pressurized blood bag explosion type thing. So he goes to Chow Yun-fat's character, Wisely, who is a very kind of Sherlock Holmes type character. He's barely in the film, but he's kind of the lead of these books, this series of books. And Chow Yun-fat never plays the character again, but he is played by several other actors. And he goes to Thailand. Maggie Chung kind of hijacks the adventure, comes along with him. He meets this woman who apparently gave him part of her breast to stave off the curse for a year. Again, don't ask me why. This is in the film. He goes back, he meets her, but she's now cursed and she's half kind of scarred, so kind of got a two-faced thing going on.
Dan, when people ask me to do a short synopsis of a film?
Yeah, I'm doing that, aren't I?
I've now got such a unique insight into what it's like listening to me, and I don't like it.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry.
I don't like this self-reflection, okay?
I'm really sorry. All the mirroring I'm doing. But yeah, so long story short, it's absolutely fucking insane. And it's all about this worm tribe, and they turn you into maggots, they feed you maggots, they turn into all sorts of weird stuff. Maggie Chung gets possessed at one point, starts attacking people with a naginata. It's just absolutely mental. Chow Yun-fat comes in at the last moment. Spoilers to the end, but he comes in with a bazooka and blows the demon away. And then right at the end, like they're all fighting for this cure. So they cure the main character, Dr. Yun. Spoilers for this one. I know I didn't spoil. God told me to, but I will spoil this one.
No one's watching this, Dan.
No, probably not. It's fucking brilliant, though. It's so mental. It's so mental. If you like Ricky O, it's the same director. Go check it out. It's just fucking insane. Brilliant. It's on Blu-ray. You can get it in the UK. But at the end, they are also trying to cure this young lady who gave part of her breast, and her boyfriend is trying to save her. And then right at the end, it's such a downer ending because they're like, "Oh, we didn't get to cure you of your ugliness, your half scarred face. Oh well, I still love you anyway." And the credits, like that's it. It's like fucking hell, that's a real downer ending, but also kind of lovely at the same time. But that is like cut, end credits, go. That's the end of the adventure. Very kind of 80s kind of storytelling. The adventure's over, demon's dead, done. But yeah, for some reason that she doesn't get the happy ending either, her and a boyfriend. So, don't ask me why, but it is utterly insane. So this is why I picked it, because it is just batshit insanity, and I thought it'd make a good, again, a good contrast to the stuff you're picking. So yeah, it's put it on your list, Ria. Put it on your letterbox list. It's a definite watcher for you.
Oh dear.
How can you not enjoy that? How can you not enjoy that?
I don't want to be part of the worm cult, thanks.
Come on! It's again, doesn't really do much culty kind of stuff, really. I'll be honest, like not the classic version of a cult and those ideas that we've talked about so wonderfully so far. It's just a batshit insane fantasy martial arts.
You just wanted
movie.
To talk about it, didn't you?
I did. Well, I wanted. I didn't want it to be just kind of, I like including international films when I can, and adding some diversity where and when I can, if I can, in certain topics. So I was like, oh, this has a cult in it. Let's give it a go. And yes, it's a must see if you're a fan of mental films.
Well, over to me to bring it down again.
Hey. No, you're grounding us now. You're bringing us
Is
back
that what I'm
down.
doing?
That's what
Yeah.
you're doing. Grounding us, making it real again, as opposed
Yeah,
to.
I mean, because I'm about to talk about two
Cult.
very traumatic films.
I can't wait to hear about them.
So join me on a jolly ride of a young woman who has escaped a cult from the Catskill Mountains and is trying to. I can't make it jolly.
It's all right. It's all right. You don't have to. You don't have to.
And she escapes and she is just trying to live. She's just trying to live, everyone. She's just trying to live her life.
I completely derailed you, haven't
I? I'm trying to find a way to make Martha, Marcy, May, Marlene seem cheerier than it is. And it's pretty hard.
Don't. You can't. There is literally no way. This is a film so difficult for me to watch. I had to do it in 2 sittings. That's how effective the film was.
Oh, the film's fantastic.
I got, again, it's great, don't get me wrong, but it was so real for me. I was like, I just can't watch this. This is the one I wasn't going to rewatch for you. I was like, I saw it once. I remember it so vividly. I don't want to go through it again. And I was kind of like, me, we do the Disney discussions and, I appreciate Disney for what it is. And, but I'm not really into that sort of stuff. And when Disney Plus kind of got all the other different films on, it wasn't just Disney stuff. They put like the 20th Century Fox stuff on and all the other stuff, the more adult-based stuff. Mm-hmm. One of the first, I watched Jennifer's Body for the first time.
Fantastic choice.
Because I was like, this is so not Disney. That is why I'm watching it. The second film was Martha, Marcy, May, Marlene, which again, not very Disney at all.
No, definitely not.
But yeah, please carry on. Please carry on and tell us more about it.
Yeah, so I mean, I still remember seeing this film at the cinema, and it was with me and my other half, and we just came out like, I just don't think we're going to talk for just going to go home and have a sleep, and then maybe talk tomorrow. But it's everything from this film as well. Have you seen the poster, the incredible poster that's it's Elizabeth Olsen's face? And it's like to the side, but then there's different images of her, and it's
maybe
beautiful and massively unsettling. Anyway, so Elizabeth Olsen plays Martha, who is a young woman, and she escapes a cult, calls her sister, who she's not spoken to in 2 years, and her sister Lucy picks her up and takes her to her holiday house that's like on the edge of the lake that she shares with her husband. Lucy and Ted are very well off. Martha has not spoken to Lucy in years. They're not particularly close since their mother died, and her sister and Lucy was in college, and Martha had to go and live with their aunt. And we start to see what happened to Martha. She is only in like the holiday home for maybe a week, if that. And during that time, we see these things that sort of trigger her, that make her. We go into flashbacks and we see what happened. We see her joining the cult, how they bring her in, how the cult leader. So it's oh God, why have I forgotten his name? He's John Hawkes, who's just absolutely amazing. So he plays Patrick, who's the cult leader, and we see how he picks Martha out of everybody that's there and makes her special. They get a special connection. And we see how he nurtures her into doing things that are uncomfortable. We see how he indoctrinates her into becoming complicit into the things that the cult are doing. And we see how when she is what he would consider disobedient, how he rules through fear. And we learn all this through Martha displaying what we would consider not appropriate behavior. So going swimming in a lake by taking off all of her clothes and being naked. And this is all drip fed to us. Got there in the end. It's funny that I can say Martha, Marcy, May, Marlene, but I can't say drip fed. And so we see this trauma that she's undergone, and why she's reacting the way she is. And then we see how Lucy and Ted absolutely do not know how to help her. And so we get to see this absolute helplessness from Martha and how there is nobody around her to help her. And that's exactly why she would get drawn back into the cult. And it's left at an ambiguous end on whether Martha is going to go to a institute and be a mental institute and be okay, or if the cult is following her and is going to take her back or kill her and her sister and her sister's husband. And it's another one of these films that's so oppressive. It's so oppressive. And we get very few locations, and we get all these, again, these subliminal messages. So when Martha's with the cult, everything's homey, everything's soft, it feels like a real home. They all live in this one big house. They all share clothes, which again, fantastic because it's taking away all the individual's identity. But the way it's shot with soft light. It's shot as if you would go home, put on a cardigan and sit in front of a fire and, have a cup of hot chocolate. Whereas when we get to her sister's house, everything's cold. It's glass. Everything's perfect. Everything's got a place. Everything's neat and tidy and clean. There's a scene where Martha is cleaning the floor because she says she wants to make herself useful. And that tells us two things. It tells us, one, that when she was in the cult, she had to do domestic chores. But we also know that floor does not need cleaning. But because I don't need to explain that, you can infer from what I'm saying. Yeah. And it's absolutely fantastic. And Elizabeth Olsen is, we talked about Florence Pugh and her face in Midsommar. I mean, Elizabeth Olsen's exactly the same in this. And this is her first role. So I think she was filming this, and there's that one where she's locked in a house. Yeah. Oh God. I think she was filming the two at the same time, but this was her first proper role. And then we get the charismatic leader in John Hawkes, and what they do so brilliantly is charisma. I mean, I think John Hawkes would agree with us that he's, not Hollywood movie star good looking, but he oozes charisma every single time he's on the screen. You can see why these young people, he is by far the oldest person on that commune, and you can see why these young people are drawn to him. He's hypnotic. He's absolutely fantastic in this. And then, everybody loves Sarah Paulson. She's wonderful.
Yeah, I was going to say she was fantastic. Is it Hugh Dancy as well?
Yeah, and Hugh Dancy as well. Yeah.
He's great. He's great as well.
And they're so good at playing these uptight people who just don't know what to do. And we see Lucy start breaking down as Martha's breaking down. And, we see her trying to comfort Martha. We see her trying to manage these two very different people and very different relationships. And we see that in a fantastically uncomfortable dinner scene. A Ria classic, but this is not a long film, but it deconstructs. We have so many films that are about why somebody joins a cult, or, afterwards, they have to infiltrate the cult or things like that. But we never get such a short sort of I can't think of the right words. We don't ever get anything where it's just after somebody's left and how they are supposed to process
a lot of
that.
Deprogramming, isn't there?
Yeah.
There's a lot of films that are about the deprogram, like Holy Smoke and Faults,
yes.
I think.
Great. Holy Smoke was on my list for.
Oh, there you go. But yeah, no, I think you're right. How do you deal with that if you don't have someone who is trained to deprogram you? How do you deprogram yourself while someone else is not aware that you need deprogramming?
Yeah. And you're suffering multiple traumas. She's sexually assaulted. She then helps Patrick sexually assault somebody else. So she becomes complicit. And as we know, with victims of sexual assault, when I say as we know, you might not, but one of the reasons why sex rings and stuff like that work, or even sort of somewhat legitimate prostitution works, is because you get the women who have already been sexually assaulted to then participate in bringing new people in. And that's exactly what they do with Martha. They rename her. They make her Marcy May. You look like a Marcy May. You were never really a Martha. All the women, when they answer the phone, they are Marlene.
Why did you say that name?
Yeah. Every time somebody joins, Patrick gives them a new name. Patrick only gives birth to boys. So what's happening to all of the girls? Well, of course, he wouldn't want any other women on his ranch in his cult, would he? So when he's impregnating all of these women, so he's just making everybody complicit. So they can't leave, because to leave, you then have to tell somebody the things that you've done, and then you become guilty. It's so clever. It's so, and it's like, it takes, I mean, obviously, because we get the,
so insidious.
We get the flashbacks, but the actual period we're with Martha is so short. It's like a week, and we get to understand so much of what happened to her and why she is the way that she is now.
I remember the scene where Hugh Dancy and Sarah Paulson are having sex, and she just walks into the room and sits on the end of the bed, and she just sits there, and they don't realize she's there for a while, and eventually, like, what the fuck are you doing in there? What are you doing? This is not appropriate. How dare you do this? And she doesn't know there's anything wrong with it, because she's so in somewhere else, and is almost kind of childlike in a way now, because she's just, her world is completely turned upside down. I love what you said about, you know, the contrast again between the kind of farm life and the kind of commune, and how welcoming and wonderful and nice and that is, and kind of the open air, but also being quite, you know, oppressive. And then when you go to their house, it's like The Invitation, where it is kind of modern, angular, hard, cold, you know, unwelcoming, you know, like you said, it's all very organized and stuff. And again, that's just the two worlds for her colliding, and her, you know, and she calls the cult members, and they contact her and say, what are you doing? Why aren't you coming back? You know, what you're being missed. You know, something's going to happen to these people, to you. And yeah, and you see, there's a moment where you see her kind of drugging the girls as well, because she knows what's going to happen, because it's happened to her, and she's in that place now. She's replaced the person who, you know, whatever she's doing another job. Yeah, just really kind of some disturbing sequences. Not a film on a bad mental health day, I would say.
Sorry, Dan.
Yeah. I mean, you didn't force me to watch it. I watched it of my own volition. I watched it of my own volition because I like Elizabeth Olsen. She's a great actress, and I was like, let's check out some of her early stuff, and let's do the non-Disney thing. And I was like, oh, right, now I regret the non-Disney thing. the not stereotypical Disney film thing I regret now. But yeah, I think it's a, again, very powerful, very like hard hitting film. I think it's amazing. I don't think it's one you'll revisit a lot at all. To be honest, you're like, you know what? I really want to put Martha Marcy May Marlene on again.
Do you know what the problem is I probably would, Dan.
Yeah, well, that's you're a unique case, Ria, as we know.
I just want to say one more thing about the film. Sure. Which is, there is a theory that Martha leaves and she goes back so that the cult can rob Ted and Lucy.
Yeah, you're right. Sorry. Yeah.
Now, I don't like that theory. I think it's fantastic. Enjoy your theory. I don't, you know, like what you like, love what you love, do what you want, have fun with it. But for me, I don't like it because I think it completely takes away the trauma that we see of Martha. Yeah. And it really diminishes the horrificness that she's going through after she's escaped. So I do think it's a fun theory, and go and enjoy that if you want to. But I think when watching this film, it's such a unique insight into what happens to people when they leave a cult. And I think it diminishes that slightly.
I agree. I do remember that plot point. Again, it's been a long time, I think, since Disney Plus came out, or maybe a year after or so when I got it myself. But yeah, I don't like that, because I think she is very vulnerable, and I think you do have to go through it with her. And again, obviously, she's brainwashed and indoctrinated into doing very bad things. Don't get me wrong; she's not necessarily innocent in all this, but again, she has been put in that situation and mentally kind of broken down and rebuilt, and and manipulated so much so that now she can't operate on the outside world. She can't function, and that's why, again, like Hugh Dancy and Sarah Paulson have these arguments. Like, she's totally messed up. What's wrong with her? It's inappropriate for her to go swimming naked and do these other things. And yeah, but I think it's a fascinating kind of insight into what that must be or what that must feel like for, people who have survived some horrific things like Marcy May Marlene does. Again, I couldn't couldn't argue with your choices. Again, another happy-go-lucky film.
But my last one is so depressing. No, the last one is powerful. It's not.
We'll get there.
Bad
Don't
things
worry.
happen, but it's powerful.
We'll get there. That's the only one I haven't seen of your choices, in fact. So it is
dear.
one I'm gonna look out. So again, going on the other side of things, I'd like to talk about a Hammer horror film. I'd like to talk about Twins of Evil, which is the final entry in Hammer's Karnstein trilogy, which is based on Carmilla, which is the famous lesbian vampire story. So they had a couple of films before this, not connected, so you can watch this in isolation and enjoy it. I was watching this and I thought, this is interesting because it said it had a cult in it. And then early on in the film, there's a satanic cult, but they're shown to be kind of charlatans, fake. They're not real believers in the film. I was kind of looking up the other side of this kind of equation because Peter Cushing is in this, wonderful as always. He's playing Gustav Weil, who is the leader of a puritanical group called the Brotherhood, who are basically witch hunters. And I was kind of, I was like, are Puritans a cult? And I googled that immediately, and I had several articles come up saying America was built on cults, and one of them was the Puritans. And I went, fair enough. Other people have said it. It's not just my idea. Again, maybe not necessarily your classic version of what a cult would be necessarily, but it's still, there's a lot of elements there that are very cultish and cult-like. So I'd say they're a cult. And again, this film is about vampires, but the main kind of leading kind of narrative is this witch hunting. So Peter Cushing is, again, a religious zealot and leads this Brotherhood group. And they have a meeting, and hilariously, someone goes, we need to discuss some business. And this guy goes, I know a woman who lives on the outskirts of town and she's unmarried. Burn her. And I was like, that's hilarious, but also, again, very true. We had a lot of, I think this film was very much inspired by films like Witchfinder General and things like that. So we get all that. And Gustav has twin nieces who come along, who are played by American playmates of the year at the time, I believe. So yeah, you're going to get a little busty action and boobage. It's a Hammer horror film. I
was going to say, surely there's so many boobs in it.
There's actually a lot less boobs than you'd think. Actually.
Oh, really?
But yeah, so they come along and they're from a bit more of a progressive town or country, and he's immediately like, how are you dressing like this? I can see your bosoms, cover them up now. And he starts kind of beating them into submission. So and there's a great line where his wife is like, he's like, I've got to beat the devil out of them. And she goes, are you sure you're not beating the devil into them? Which I thought was a really good line, because one of them is very innocent, very naive, and very young, but the other one is kind of very like outspoken. It's like, he's an idiot. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Who is he to tell us how to dress, how to act, how to be? Surprisingly, a progressive film for Hammer horror in the early 70s, I will say. Again, not much kind of lesbianism in this, but in the previous two entries there was. And one of the twins wants to rebel and goes off to meet Count Karnstein, who is supposedly dabbling in the dark arts and magic and evil stuff, who, unbeknownst to her, has recently been transformed into a vampire. She is then made into a vampire and is now kind of being hunted by the Brotherhood themselves. But again, there's a conflict within Gustav Wiers. Again, by the end of the film, he does not redeem himself in my eyes, because he's still a horrible piece of shit, but you can see the conflict in him with his wife, with his kind of paternal feelings. He's even in conflict with the Brotherhood, because he's like, let's delay it at 24 hours. We've captured her, but let's delay it. We've got no evidence. But the Brotherhood are like, we've never needed evidence before. We've burnt them immediately. And again, kind of funny as well, but kind of accurate at the same time. And yeah, so we have this, and eventually they realize that the vampires are the true villains of the piece, and they manage to kind of motivate the Brotherhood into defeating the vampires. Again, not the good guys of the story at all, but they are kind of a tool to an end. And again, Peter Cushing does does kind of have I wouldn't say like a face turn or a heel turn if I'm going to use wrestling, words and terms. But it's an entertaining film. It's full of gothic kind of atmosphere as well. And again, I think it's one of the best kind of Hammer horror films I've seen. I've not seen many, but I think it's got a lot to say about the time, the period, politically, and feminism, all the good stuff that we like to talk about, you and me, Ria. But it's also a lot of fun. It's cheesy kind of horror fun as well. So I think there's a lot to enjoy here. And if you're into that kind of, exploring the puritanical kind of religion and that sort of thing, this film is definitely for you. Have you seen this one?
I've not. No, I've not watched a lot of Hammer horror.
No, neither have I. I've dabbled.
Yeah, I've watched a few, but like it's never really anything I've sort of really delved into. I mean, and it was a while ago. I'm sure if I probably started watching it now, I'd be like, I'm going to watch everything in their back catalogue.
No, I think most people would say this is one of the better Hammer horror entries as well, and of that era as well, because I know some of them were this was kind of them going. This was their time where they're kind of not doing as well and not making as groundbreaking films at the time. But I think there's enough here for you to enjoy, I think. And again, it's got vampires in it. You got the cults in it. You got the witch hunting element. There's a lot of play here, and I think it's the performances are fun and cheesy, and yeah, it's a blast.
Added to the list. Do I need to watch the two beforehand?
I have not seen the two beforehand.
Oh, no, then just straight into it.
So yeah, you can. There is only one kind of link to it, really, which is the ghost of the Baroness or Countess Karnstein, who gives Count Karnstein her descendant vampiric abilities. That is the only thing, but you don't necessarily need to see it. It's not the same actress or anything like that. So you can just enjoy it for what it is.
Lovely.
Right.
Done on the list. That sounds fun. Right. No more fun is allowed because Ria is talking. I hate fun. No.
I'm having a lot of fun.
Well, let's see if I can ruin that for you, Dan.
All right. Number one for you. This is your number one, your last one. Make it a good one.
Some people may say this is not a film about a cult. I would disagree. I would say this is very much a film about a cult because it's in my list. It's sharp. No, there are actual reasons which I might explore. I don't have my notes, so the way I explore it will be random.
Yeah, I mean, it can't be any worse than the way I described the seventh curse. So
that's amazing. I was like, oh god, that's a really.
There's a list of random shit.
I don't like it.
There's a list of random shit that happens.
But that is my brain. What you did, I was like, this is just my brain, and I don't like it to be reflected back at me. Thank you.
We're on the same wavelength. We're on the same wavelength.
Oh dear. Okay, so my final pick is Women Talking. If you do not know about Women Talking, you should do. It is incredible. It is a film about a group of women who are deciding whether to leave their religious community or not. Because the men of the religious community have been sorry, just one second. Not all men of the religious community have been gassing and raping the women of the community, including young girls. And some of the men get arrested, and the rest of the men of the colony, just trying to make it funny,
did a great job.
Go into town to post bail for the men who have been arrested, leaving to raise money to bail them out. And the women are left in the community, and they decide to gather. The three heads of the main families decide to gather and decide whether they are going to stay and forgive the men, they're going to stay and fight, or they are going to leave. Now, the women of the community are not taught how to read or write. Their role is to be mothers, bear children, and not make any decisions. And throughout the film, you start to discover that not everything is as it seems. So it is presented to you and filmed in a way as in this would be sort of like in the 1900s or something like that. We're looking at that sort of puritanical America type of place. But we start to see these modern things to that, and we learn it's actually in 2010. So this community has been set up, separating women from sort of as normal community, and they're running sort of like a village, style scenario. And there's one guy who's left back, and his mother was kicked out of the community. So he went and sort of lived his life, went to college, and has come back into the community. His mother died, and he's been welcomed back. And they are getting him to transcribe, excuse me, they're getting him to transcribe the conversations. So there is I can't think of the word. There is
record,
thank you, of what has happened and what has transpired. And we get three views from the main women of the family, and we're discussing things about what is forgiveness, what would leaving achieve, what does staying and fighting achieve. Should we not just carry on as we are because it was fine when we didn't know this was happening to us? But obviously they all knew. We're talking about domestic abuse, we're talking about the patriarchy, we are talking about what is a woman's place in the world, we are talking about the importance of sharing stories. It is literally women talking. It is literally about the power of communication between women, something the patriarchy continues to try and interrupt, to try and stop. The patriarchy does not want us to have female communities, because the more we talk, the more we pass on stories, the more powerful we are, the more we know who is dangerous, who is not, the more we can break down these structures that are forcing us down. And that's what this film is about. But it doesn't say that women who participate in the patriarchy are bad. It doesn't say that men that participate in the patriarchy are bad. It talks about intergenerational trauma, how the things that our elders do is passed down, and it's what we are taught, and we don't know any different. So should young boys be punished for what their fathers, their uncles, their brothers are telling them they should be doing? How do we break that cycle of abuse for everybody whilst centering the female experience? And that's incredibly unique. It's fully about how the patriarchy is damaging for everyone. And we don't see that. We never, ever get to see that. We do not get to see a film with incredible, powerful female performances that just focuses on these women and all different sides. This film does not pass judgment on women who choose to stay with their abusers. It does not pass judgment on women who would just leave and not take their children with them. It doesn't pass judgment on women who want to fight back, who want to hurt men who have done things to them. All this film does is boldly state that all of these things happen, and women have these discussions, and these things happen to women, and we need to stop and we need to listen. And it's so incredibly powerful. And we get different generations. We get the older female generation saying, I knew this was happening. I let it happen. I am sorry. I'm sorry that I did this to you. We get then sort of like the mid generation of, people who have teenage girls or girls in their young 20s, and this is happening to them. And they are so angry about it. But then we've also got women who knew this was going to happen to them, but that's just how it works. And you have just these women who encapsulate everything about different types of people. Nobody is a stereotype. Everybody is well-rounded. Everybody has their good things and their bad things. And then we've got characters who represent positivity, who even through the darkness, they're going to make something out of their life. And this film is not a long film. It's like 90 minutes long. I mean, I probably should check that, but it's definitely not long. And we get to see all of these different things. And it's based on an incredibly powerful book about the exact same thing that happened to a community in Bolivia. So, they've got fantastic source material, but the way it's brought to life and the way as the viewer you get to experience it is so unique. Like, I've seen online some comparisons to 12 Angry Men. And I think that comparison completely holds up. Obviously, that means some people hate it. And I can't believe it's just women sat around talking. And other people are like, dude, that's just 12 Angry Men. And you probably say that's one of the best films that ever been.
Also, it's in the title. So
yeah,
you should know what you're going in for.
And it's just incredibly powerful, and it's incredibly dark material, but it is also funny. I laughed a lot watching this because you know what? Even when terrible things happen to us, we still have humor. We are still people, and
look at this podcast.
Exactly. And I think that's just so incredible. And I've not seen something like this before. And I have to say, the directing and writing is fantastic, but this film is nothing without the performances. The performances are unbelievable. Rooney Mara, Claire Foy, Jessie Buckley. Oh, I love Jessie Buckley. Frances McDormand's in it, a very small amount. But even in the bits that she's in, she's really putting across what's happening. We've got Ben Whishaw as the male character who's scribing what's happening. And we've got sort of these newer, younger actresses that are coming in, and it's through them that we see their eyes. And it's just incredible. It's just so powerful. I've been talking about this film for 20 minutes now, so I am going to stop. But
it's not been that long.
Honestly, everybody should watch it. It's fantastic. It's absolutely fantastic. It even deals with non-binary people. But it's not shoehorned in. None of it is shoehorned in. It's just incredible.
It does sound really powerful. Again, this is the one I haven't seen on your list, but it does sound like something I will be watching very soon, if not this week. Really, really interesting.
And I promise you, it's uplifting at the end. Horrific things happen.
Then I'm not.
But
watching
it is uplifting.
Not watching it. I'm not watching it. I only want Ria films that end with dark, depressing, disturbing subject matter that make me feel like the world is horrible and depressing. That's all I want. I don't want any uplifting films. I'm going to watch God Told Me To instead. That's a real uplifting film.
So happy.
So happy-go-lucky film. I will watch it. We know what the subject matters are. I think coming into this podcast, if you don't know, we're going to talk about these kind of things and the real ramifications of what cults are and how they operate and what they do and the kind of horrible things they can do. Then this is stuff we're going to tackle. Of course, I've gone the opposite end of that, but I think if you hadn't had this kind of set group and listing and kind of, I knew what I was going into with each of them because I'd seen most of them as well. So I was like, all right, these are all quite heavy, quite dark, but again, still amazing films and good and quality performances, writing, direction, you name it. And I think all of your choices should be seen. Again, I haven't seen this one, but I will go out and see it based on your recommendation of it. But yeah, absolutely. This is part of this discussion. This is part of what we're talking about. So it's important. Yeah, I'm doing some kind of silly ends of it, but they're fun and they're good in their own way. Very unique in their own way. But this is the stuff I couldn't wait for you to talk about. And I'm so glad you have. I know we're joking that obviously. Sorry, it says I'm automatically leaving.
Oh dear! Don't leave. I know I've depressed everyone, but I haven't.
Know.
Women talking's uplifting.
It is.
I promise.
I don't know why it's saying I'm leaving. Let's just carry on and see what happens. If I leave, then we'll know. I don't know why I'm leaving. It didn't say anything about a cut-off point at all.
If you leave, I'll take over, and it'll be amazing.
I'm sure it will. I mean, let's hang on a minute and see if I do leave. It said I'm leaving in a minute, so let's just see if I do that. If it does leave, fucking technology. I don't even know.
This.
Yeah, fucking hell. Who knows?
If you leave, Dan, everybody come and listen to Femon, femon.show. Search for it in all your podcast apps and go and watch women talking.
I'm sure I'll keep talking. It's been over a minute yet? I don't know.
Yeah, it must have been, right?
Must have been over a minute,
I
surely.
think so, yeah.
Maybe it's because I moved the mouse for a bit, maybe, or something. I'm not sure. Fucking hell! I just hope my audio's been recording this whole time. That's
Oh
my
God,
only.
don't!
I just pray. I just pray it has.
I can't come up with
Can't do
these
this
zingers again, Dan.
so rich. I'll just use your audio, and it'll just be me being very quiet. You'll be like just laughing a lot, and he's like, it must have said some hilarious stuff.
Yeah, that was so funny.
Yeah. Yeah, must have been over a minute by now, surely.
Yeah, definitely over.
I think it was a mouse thing. I think I just hadn't moved my mouse.
Yes, it was just like being like, oh, clearly he's not on here anymore.
Still here?
Nobody records for an hour and 40 minutes.
But just silence, just nothing. Right, okay. I'm not going. I'm here. So I'm going to lead with. I think you're a fan of Stuart Gordon and his films. I take it, Ria.
Who?
Stuart Gordon, the director of Reanimator and From Beyond, and
yes.
Yes.
I don't retain things like that.
Fair enough. I mean, you have talked about actresses' names and directors' names, and
yeah, but it's a weird thing that I have. There's some things that just will be like seared in. Like I would be amazing on Pointless, for example.
I would be,
you know.
I would be good.
But then there's other things, and it'll be like a film like Reanimator, which I have seen maybe 3 times, but my brain just goes, nah.
Forget that. Not worth keeping in your brain.
No.
Well, I bloody love it, and I keep all that information in my brain. So Brian Usner, I covered him when we did Society, another kind of Lovecraftian kind of horror film. Again, very politically minded as well. So this is Dagon. This is an adaptation of H.P. Lovecraft. I love talking about racist authors, apparently. Yeah?
You do.
Because I've talked about Robert E. Howard recently. We talked about Edgar Rice Burroughs, and now I'm talking about H.P. Lovecraft, probably the most racist of them all. But again, I much like that Robert E. Howard, I do prefer the adaptations of his work as opposed to actually reading his work. So there we have it. So Dagon is basically a Spanish. It's a Spanish town. They translated to Spain because this is as entirely Spanish production, even though Stuart Gordon and Brian Usner are producing and directing and writing. It is an entirely Spanish production. So they take Innsmouth and call it Imboca, which is the Spanish fishing village. Years ago, they are running out of money. The economy is drying up, and the fish are drying up as well. So they're having a pretty shocking time. But they're a heavily religious town, but they're not kind of getting anything back. It's becoming very impoverished and dilapidated, whatever word you want to use. And a sailor comes in and says, I know a god you can pray to who will give you exactly what you want. Dagon, the sea god, Dagon is actually in the Bible as well, apparently, who's a half fish being. And he's referenced in the various H.P. Lovecraft mythos, they're called Cthulhu mythos. And they go, he'll give you gold, he'll give you fish, he'll give you everything. You just have to pray to him. And one day, all of these fish, wash up on shore. All of this gold, all these strange relics made of gold, wash up as well. And they decide, right, sack off Jesus. Let's pray to this guy who gives us exactly what we want. So they change the church, and it's now the Esoteric Order of Dagon, as opposed to the church, and they replace all the crosses with tridents. And many years later, a previously Spanish couple moved to America, made lots of money with this .com business they made. They are not specific about the .com business. It's in 2001, but they're sailing by. They run adrift of the rocks. They're shipwrecked. They manage to escape, and there's another couple on there with them, and they slowly get pulled into this town, which is full of half person, half fish people, and some of them are trying to have sex with you. That's right, shagging sea people. We've gone from all the trauma that Ria's just described to shagging sea people. And there are some very sexy ladies in this, and even I was
it for you.
Even I was tempted, give whole new meanings to fishy lady parts.
Are they like mermaids? So are they human top, tail bottom, or are they fish top, human bottom?
Bit of both. It depends on the person. So some of them just have tentacle fingers, and some of them have gills. Some of them have piranha teeth. Some of them have kind of a very much like an octopus face. Some of them cannot walk, so they're on crutches or in wheelchairs.
Do you know what? I'd be all right with octopus face.
Yeah. Sucker, just a big.
Oh
sucker
no,
on
you've
your-
ruined it now. You ruined it. You've just fully ruined it.
Yes, yeah, getting sucked off in a whole new way.
Ah.
Anyway, it's weird.
When's it making you leave this call again?
It's going to make me leave in a minute. I've only got a minute left. It should have made me leave ages ago. But yes, so yeah, it's not probably one of Stuart Gordon's best. But...
I'm sorry. This sounds amazing. I am clearly watching this week. This sounds absolutely amazing.
It's brilliant. It's brilliant. And we learn slowly but surely that this young lad who used to live in Spain, is from Spain originally, has some connection to this town and is having prophetic dreams about the kind of head of the cult, this very beautiful lady. And she's kind of very attracted to him. But yes, there's a lot more going on there. I won't spoil that either. Not much to spoil, to be honest. But yeah, it's just him running around in a very, like, the atmosphere is great. It's just wet, drippy, gooey, full of all sorts of stuff, very dodgy stuff. Again, a lot of the stuff you've talked about, a lot of the sexual assault stuff happens in this, but in a totally different way, in a kind of more supernatural way, but just as equally disturbing. But yeah, there's a lot of fun to be had with it as well. Like, it is a very much a genre film. And again, if you like Reanimator, if you like From Beyond, this is right up your street. But again, probably not as good as those, but still, there's still a lot of fun to be had here with the kind of Lovecraftian elements. Not a very kind of grounded or realistic take or kind of atmospheric take in a maybe a more serious film, but it's a lot of fun. And who doesn't want to see fish-human hybrids and trying to escape them as best you can? So like you mentioned in our chat, like, cinema does seem to like women and men procreating with fish people. We seem to have a fascination with it. So this has that in the the bucket load.
I feel like that has to come from like all the Greek myths and stuff like that, because I'm gonna absolutely butcher the pronunciation. But is it like the Oceanads? Is that what they're called? So like, there's like a bunch of I'm so
sirens
sorry
and stuff. That kind of thing.
Just so sorry, everyone. But there's like a whole group of like sub Greek gods and goddesses who are like ocean based, and then they just all like shagged each other and had loads of nymphs, and then all the nymphs shagged, and then they had loads of children. So there's like thousands and thousands of like these ocean based semi-god blood running through their veins type people.
I mean,
and so I feel like
there's definitely that in there, definitely in this film, no doubt.
So but I feel like that's where like humanity's obsession with maybe we could shag some sea type creature people comes from wanting to shag gods.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, the whole Zeus thing, he's always shagging people as different animals, isn't he? Or raping them, whatever you want to,
Well, that's how the Minotaur was born, wasn't it? Because
you're correct.
Because the fancy ball shagged the goddess who was married to King Minos.
And
guys,
that was
scraping some
you're right.
GCSE Greek knowledge here.
You're right. I did that at college. I was Theseus. I played the hero. I never played the hero again in anything. But that one time I did. But no, you're right. The myth is Daedalus on Crete, which is where Andy and Natalie got married. And I learned that Crete was actually a feminist society. I didn't know this, but it was a feminist society, Crete, until they had this, and they were very successful. It was like a port, and people were worried about it because they had a lot of earthquakes, and I think that is what led to the end of their feminist society, unfortunately. But they said it was a minotaur kind of stomping around in the labyrinth, and that's kind of where the myth. But apparently, I learned this, Ria, as well. Speaking of the patriarchy, historians hid this. They hid the fact that Crete was a feminist society with a priestess or a leader, because they didn't want the ideas getting out into people's heads.
That's the problem, isn't it? Because our history is written by men. Isn't it?
Absolutely right.
Isn't it?
Yeah, that's it.
Right, sorry, I completely interrupted you and shagging people.
No, but yeah, you are correct with the myth. But Daedalus, who's the creator of the labyrinth and is kind of an inventor, and he did the
Icarus's dad.
Icarus, yeah, that's right, Icarus, yeah. So part of that, he built it because she fancied the fuck out of this bull. She was like, I can't shag him, so you're gonna have to make a machine so I can shag him. Which is the the story. I don't know what the machine involved. I don't know how it worked. I don't know the science behind it, but that's what he did. But yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Yeah, it's part of all that. And yeah, I imagine it is like with the sirens and all that, mermaids, and but yeah, no, I think there's definitely some. It's all kind of mixed in there, I think. But yeah, I think it's a fun film. It's dark, it's weird, it's very gruesome and bizarre and freaky, but there's a lot of fun to be had with it as well. Kind of bit weird, sexy weird. We talk about weird sexes all the time, Ria. This is another podcast full of that stuff.
Yeah,
and also much like Midsommar, they like wearing human faces. So there you go.
Lovely to look.
To look a bit more human.
Strong look,
I guess. So,
Yeah.
Again, you got all the tentacles coming out the bottom and the fish eyes and the gills and everything. But yeah, so that's my number one, Dagon from 2001. That is it. Do you have any honourable mentions, Ria?
Oh, loads. But obviously, Hereditary, Rosemary's Baby. Rosemary's Baby nearly made it in. Obviously, we talked Holy Smoke, touched on that. Yeah, there's a whole bunch. You've all had enough of me.
To be fair, we are our time. We're doing better on time than last time we did the documentary. we're massively running over, so we've done pretty well to keep ourselves on track, I think. So I've got 5. So I've got The Hunted, which is about a ninja death cult with.
That's not what I'm thinking of.
Which is yeah, very different. Again, probably a dark and depressing and very, very problematic one you're thinking of. Oh, is it a cult full of rapists again? Oh, great, yeah, it's a Ria one.
Sorry,
definitely
everyone.
A Ria one. It's definitely a Ria choice.
Love it, my comfort film.
Get cozy on a Sunday evening. That's what I'll pop. Martha, Marcy, May, Marlene's going on again.
I word there's something wrong with me. I'm not right.
No, I love it. You know the shit I watch. Fucking hell, you've seen
that's true.
You've seen the fucking the Worm Tribe and everything. You've seen the comfort films I have. The Kill List. Kill List, I think, is a quite good one.
I love Ben Wheatley. Kill List is fantastic.
Yeah. I think any of those is. I'll be honest, I've not seen as many Ben Wheatley films as I'd like to, but that is one I have seen. I know the cult element really isn't in it to the last third.
Yeah.
But I still think it's a very kind of effective. Again, it's like the opening of Midsommar, that absolute realism before you get into the kind of weird and wacky stuff. Mandy, how many cocaine fueled chainsaw fights do you need in a film?
Do you know what? I absolutely forgot about a film. It's so much fun.
Oh, it's fucking great. Again, very Lovecraftian, very cosmic horror inspired. A lot of great fun. This one Tony recommended to me, which I really loved, and it was The Art of Self-Defense with Jesse Eisenberg. It's about him joining a karate group, because he doesn't feel very confident. He's not really sure of himself, so he joins this, and then you see him slowly being kind of radicalized, which I absolutely adored. And his friend is a producer on it, Tony's friend, because I covered Robot and Frank years ago when we did our top 5 robot characters. And she's the same producer on this, and again, another wonderful film, another really interesting film. And then I'm going to go for another Hammer horror film, The Devil Rides Out, where Christopher Lee plays a good guy for once. But lots of fun with that. Very cheesy, very kind of over the top, but it's one that kind of comes up in a lot of lists, and that's from 1968. So that is my top 5 and my honourable mentions. We do have quite a lot of listener comments, Ria. Would you like to hear them?
Yeah, go for it.
So on Threads, Angry Andy has said, "Not the bees, not the bees. We'll never get back your goddamn honey," which is obviously the Wicker Man remake with Nicolas Cage. I've still not seen it.
Oh, Dan, watch it.
Do I need to? Okay,
yeah,
I'll do it.
It is incredible, and not in a good way.
So Dan Burgess, he says Rosemary's Baby, Wicker Man, The Sacrament, which I did intend to watch but didn't end up doing, Children of the Corn, which is fucking shit.
Children of the Corn is
so
awful.
Fucking shit. It's one of the I've tried to convince people to do like Killer Kid movies. I'm sure that would have come up in the conversation. I've still not been able to get anybody on side to do that podcast. But we've also I couldn't even get the fucking Killer Puppets one, which you would have hated.
Yeah,
the Killer Dolls one. I couldn't get that. I couldn't get that on. I couldn't get that happening either. One day, people will agree to do something that that I want to do instead of other stuff. But they also they do go along with shit I do suggest, which is most of the time quite mad.
As part of Disney discussions, yes, we do.
I've got some choices coming up.
I might be sick for those ones.
No, I think you might. I think you won't mind them. But he's also said Red State as well. Kevin Smith's Red State.
I don't like Red State, but yeah.
I can't really remember it that well. I don't remember hating it, but I don't remember loving it either. But Dave Horrocks on our Discord has said some great shouts already. I've done it in the wrong order, haven't I? Here we go. So Math, we'll do that first. Math said, I don't know how I've uploaded them.
Professional.
Obviously, of course. I mean, it's us two, isn't it? It's going to happen like this.
What are you talking about? Absolutely fine.
So Matt says, well, right off the bat, I would have to say, and I'm sure this will be in the discussion, The Wicker Man, original one, of course. I'll have to think of some others. I'm not sure I could name 5. The only other one that comes to mind is the one that features before one of your pods. I think it was the medical one we did, The Void. Absolutely, Math. We did talk about The Void. I think where some guys end up in a hospital, there's a cult type people outside, crazy shit inside, was a real mindfuck of a film. Absolutely, Math. Definitely check out The Void. If I'd not already mentioned that on another podcast, it would definitely come up in here. And again, very Lovecraftian, very messed up, very Stuart Gordon. I absolutely adore that film. Very low budget, but practical effects up the wazoo. Mike of Genuine Chit Chat says Midsommar and The Ritual are 2 of my favorite horror movies.
Ritual, yeah.
Yeah. They both involve cults, especially love Midsommar, and it's all basically clear in the daytime, which is a rare for a horror movie. I also do love Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which does have the Manson's cult in it a fair amount. So go back to Dave Horrocks. Some great shouts already. I'll throw in Rosemary's Baby, Red State, Children of the Corn. I'm sorry, Dave, it's shit. It's so shit. Honestly, it's boring, dull, and crap. Apart from the opening 5 minutes, rest of it's shite. And then maybe the monster at the end. That's kind of okay. But he does say Society, which I've already mentioned, and The Craft. Which is an interesting choice.
Yes.
Yeah.
Everybody knows Craft's like one of my favorites.
Yeah. Again, we mentioned it last year. Lucy mentioned it on her top 5 witch movies. We talked about it. Would you consider them a cult?
Nah, witchy. I mean, yes, I want to because it means I get to talk about them. But sure. So yes, but no. Witches aren't they coven? Yeah.
Yes, but no, but yeah, but.
But love a shout out to The Craft always.
Again, original Wicker Man, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood again, and Midsommar. They've already been mentioned, but are great cult movies. I Am Jack's Musings mentions Ben Wheatley's Kill List. Deserves a mention. So does Jude Law starring in limited TV series The Third Day, which actually aired an uncut 24-hour live episode during its run. Gareth Evans' Apostle is underrated too.
Apostle, yeah.
Got a soft spot for Drive Angry, and does Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom count? Dave Horrocks has come back in and says Temple of Doom definitely counts. I think I hate that movie much less than most other people, it seems. I agree. I think Temple of Doom is my favorite Indiana Jones film. It is very problematic, don't get me wrong. I will admit that. And I do want to do a podcast with Max and Angry at some point on that. So let me know if you want that sooner rather than later. And then Blake says, do feature-length documentaries count? No. Because both Wild Wild Country and Escaping Twin Flames are absolutely riveting. I have a soft spot for The Village as well, which you've already mentioned. And then Matt's going, if TV shows count. Oh, everyone's just changing the rules on me now. I say top 5 cultist movies. Like, well, just throw in TV shows and documentaries. It's all right, isn't it? Oh, yeah. Yes. Why don't you make your own podcast on TV shows? You do that. This is my bloody thing. I'm asking you a specific question, and you bloody answer it. So all these answers are bullshit. I'm still going to read them out. Thank you, guys. Anyway, I do appreciate it. Yes. So yeah, if TV shows count. They don't. Again, if they can be allowed, Math says if they can be allowed, the following, it had Kevin Bacon in it and was very good. And then John Hammond finally says, same with TV shows. Again, don't count. But
carry on, guys. Come on.
Carry on. Just carry on as you mean to go on. Just make up your own podcast. I said I love Waco, which I've not seen.
No, I've not seen, but I would imagine is not cheery.
No, you must love it then.
Yeah, be like, put it on before I go to bed.
That's it. That's it.
Sweet dreams.
Yeah, stick it on in the morning. Set up for the rest of my day.
Yeah, feeling good.
Start doesn't mean to go on.
What's wrong with you?
What's your morning routine, Ria? Oh, put Marcy, May, Marlene on. Without fail, every morning.
Especially when autumn hits. Oh, so cozy. Big cardi.
Got my pumpkin spice latte there. It's lovely. It's lovely.
Oh dear. I have very strong opinions about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which people do not like. And this is not the time for it because I'm very tired.
Sure.
But boo is my opinion.
It's an interesting one. I'm still kind of unsure how I feel about it. I thought it was quite funny for a Tarantino movie, but there's a lot of people have the depiction of Bruce Lee that a lot of people didn't find too flattering. I remember as well. But yeah, I'm sure there's a lot more we could go into.
Yeah, another time.
But
I think everybody already hates me. So
hates you.
Funny enough, I'm okay with being disliked.
Don't worry. Don't worry. We my latest podcast, the Sam Raimi one, I opened with a clip of people saying that they hate Sam, like him too, because of Spider-Man 3, because of how divisive it is.
Mean, you can't say that that's not fair. That's mean.
No, but they were like, because it's kind of on a podcast. I think it's a Bill Hader podcast or something, and he's like, people said they hated me after that. We're like, what did they say? And he's like, we hate you.
They literally came to my face and said, I hate you.
But again, me and Dan talk very lovingly about those films, despite the problems and despite the way Kirsten Dunst was treated on those films as well. We went into great detail about how great all the women in those films are and how underrated and underappreciated their performances were in those films and how the writing didn't serve them either. So go and listen to that. It's almost 3 hours, so a lot longer than this one, luckily. But we're here at the end. But Ria, where can people find you and all the wonderful work you've been doing recently? The Femon Collective is back.
We are.
You've just finished. You've been editing banned books to help Tonya out. You're on banned books like me, talking about your specific book that now escapes me. But it was a wonderful discussion. You were the mad MVP of that episode. I loved
Thank you. As always.
Loved it. I love how everyone else was so diplomatic and reserved, and you were like, "This is shit. People are shit."
Like a diamond. It's like so beautiful. She's a nice, beautiful way of speaking, of expressing herself. And then I'm like, I am angry.
But that is what Tonya had you on for. That is exactly what you are there for. And you delivered. You delivered.
Did it.
I think that may be my favorite podcast of this season of Dan Books. So
Diamond's like escaping swarming bees and like is like recording on her phone and just saying like just the most wonderful things. And I'm like, just let penguins be gay.
That was it. It's the Gay Penguins book. I remember.
This and Tango Makes Three.
Yes, wonderful book.
Why do you hate gay penguins?
What's wrong with you? I've been following that. What's the giant penguin that's just been born that everyone's loving on the internet? Is it Pesto?
I don't know.
There's a giant penguin that's been born and he's bigger than his parents. He's just this giant, fluffy brown one. I want to say his name is Pesto. I want to say, but he's. Have you seen Moodeng as well? Moodeng.
Yeah. Obviously.
So like there's been a lot. They've been making loads of fan art, and it's like Godzilla versus Kong, but it's Pesto versus Moodeng, like a Q-top. But yeah, go and look up that penguin. I can't remember what.
Pesto.
Yeah, Pesto. That was it. Yeah, I was right. But yeah,
what a legend!
He's a big fluffy boy he is. Just look at him compared to all the other. And people are actually flying. I read that people are flying across the world to go and visit him specifically just to see that penguin, which I think is cool and amazing. And after hearing all of Ria's films, go check out some Pesto footage. It might just cheer you up a little bit. Go look at Moodeng. Or maybe directly after watching any of the films that Ria's mentioned, go look at that wholesome content. Or sit with those feelings, you process them, but then after you've processed them and made your peace with them, go check out some lighter content.
By coming to femon.show.
Bingo.
Yes, exactly. By listening to the Femon podcast. That's what I do.
Ria's questions is some of my favorite.
Lovely and light-hearted. That's
yeah,
lots
absolutely.
of fun. Yeah, exactly. And you've got the wonderful Alison talking about scenes from anything from film, TV, comics, books, all of those wonderful things. Tonya just making the world a better place with active activism. Ada just blowing your mind with poetry. Oh, and come and listen to Jess and Literature for Life. And the episode that will be coming out soon is about Fourth Wing. So if you want to hear about dragons and smut, that is the podcast for you.
I do.
Yeah.
I'm on board. I'm on board. You know, I can transition from shagging fish people to dragons.
I mean, they don't shag the dragons, but the dragons do shag each other, and the humans shag each other.
Oh, okay. That kind of makes up for it. At the same time, in the same room?
No spoilers.
Okay, fair enough.
So no, but no spoilers.
No, but no, but maybe, but not. But again, make your own fan art. You know, have your own adventures with that.
Well,
idea.
the Fourth Wing fan art's problematic because the main Shadow Daddy in Fourth Wing is a non-white character, but lots of fan art depict him as being white, and that is incorrect. So make good Fourth Wing fan art, please.
Sorry, I just the term Shadow Daddy made me laugh.
Welcome to my world, everyone.
That does sound quite fan fictiony.
You know what? I am an enigma.
You certainly are.
I watch these horrific films as comforts, and I know about Shadow Daddies.
But maybe in a way they're comforting because it goes, yeah, the patriarchy does need to be smashed.
Yeah, see, that's right.
Maybe that's why it's comforting because it reminds you, the message of the collective and
the horrificness of
how shit the world is. It's comforting to know how shit the world is and how much it needs to change and improve. Yay. But yes, you can find the Femon Collective on all your favorite podcast apps and check.
That's where we are.
All of them. I'll leave a link in the show notes. You can find them, and it's at Femon Collective. Am I right on Instagram? Femon Collective.
Yep, sure. It's in the show notes.
I'll link it. It is in the show notes. I'll link it. Right. So I would like to thank, before we finish, my patrons, including Ria Carrogan.
Oh yeah, me.
Yeah, that's right. You give me all sorts of monies for this weird shit that I cover that I've listed here today. Some of that shit. I've just dropped a new Patreon exclusive Shockphobia Fest episode for Halloween. So and I'm doing all the Chaos Comics Halloween trilogy, the Michael Myers Halloween trilogy, and then I'm going to end it with a prequel to The Batman, which we're also covering this year with Tonya and Andy, which I think is very, very good as well. The Riddler Year One, it's called. But yes, thanks to all my patrons: Tony Farina, I Am Jack's Musings, Simon Cotton, Paul Mellon, Mike Burton, Angry Andy, Tonya Todd, Math, Scott Hodgson, and Sarah Coyne for your continuing donations, including Ria Carrogan. It is much appreciated and helps Prattle World keep on turning. And if you ever find yourself in a position to help the podcast, please consider it. And tune in next week for that review of The Batman to close out Shockphobia Fest. Right. Well, thank you again. Thank you, Ria. This has been very, it's been very, very. But no, I've loved it.
A little shout out to Heathers.
Yes, absolutely. Which is its own cult, isn't it? You could say.
The cult of Heathers. Damn it! Why did I not take this opportunity to talk about Heathers?
Next time we can do it. We can cover it. I'm sure Tony would join us for that as well if you wanted to. Excellent film. But yes, that's the end of this podcast. But thank you again for tuning in. And as always, prepare for Prattle.